You know how many people have those kind of relationships? They just tell them what they want to hear? Even though, how often do you see this? Have a friend. Everybody's together and they say, oh, I broke up with Billy Bob. It's so bad right now. They're like, oh, Billy Bob was an asshole. I'm so sorry. And then as soon as that person leaves, dude, she's a fucking mess. This is her 5th boyfriend in 7 months. Didn't she get it? My goal isn't that anybody likes me first. I'm far more interested in you learning and growing before liking me. Of course, this makes me problematic as a partner, because the closer you get to me, you're like, fuck, growth. I'm on a mission. The people on a mission don't slow down for others. They can't, which is tricky. That has its own kind of consequences to it. Mission first. I actually said this here 6 months ago, but it just dropped as a 45-second short on YouTube and IG. Man, there was a lot of pissed off people. Probably one of the more negative hate comments I've gotten. And all I said was, the snippet, unfortunately when we do shorts, context is almost always missing, but that's kind of part of it. Humans seem to respond to inflammatory content, which drives me up a frickin' wall, but it's just human. Human likes inflammatory content. So I think the headline was, be loyal to your values before people, and yes, even your family, or something like that. Man, there was a lot of people that weren't very happy with me on that. Well, why? Because they heard it through their lens and they didn't get the context I was speaking in. The greatest gift you can give your family is what? Your personal growth. Being authentically you. That is hard to reconcile for a lot of people, which is why the vast majority of people are miserable in their relationships, because they don't live from an authentic place. Do you know how exhausting it is to try to be something for someone that you are not, because you think that's what's going to make them happy? You're not serving them. You're not serving you. That eventually ends in ruin. The best thing you can do is be authentically you, and then find people that genuinely love the authentic version of you. Even if that means the only person that loves you is you, which I'm fucking entirely okay with. I'll play chess with myself, drink some tea, read. Does this make sense? The best way to be in service to humanity is through taking your personal growth serious and being more loyal to your values than to relationships. They will shift. And when we all get done walking each other home, there will be nothing but hugs and kisses on the other side. I promise. I'm the same dude in all of my relationships. For me being a good friend is being honest. Me being a good friend is holding you to what you agreed upon. Me being a good friend is holding the boundaries and standards for our relationship, for our business, for that context. See the difference? Isn't that interesting? Some people don't see that. It's like being a friend is telling you what you want to hear. Oh, yeah, right. You know how many people have those kind of relationships? They just tell them what they want to hear? Even though, how often do you see this? Have a friend. Everybody's together and they say, oh, I broke up with Billy Bob. It's so bad right now. They're like, oh, Billy Bob was an asshole. I'm so sorry. And then as soon as that person leaves, dude, she's a fucking mess. This is her 5th boyfriend in 7 months. Didn't she get it? It's like, why didn't anybody tell her that? Instead, just, oh, shh. Because we think that's what being a good friend is. How gross is that? If I got shit in my teeth, fucking tell me. If I got bad breath, tell me. If my hair's fucked up, please fucking tell me. If my tie's fucked up, Arturo, tell me. That's being a good friend. Be honest. I'm not saying be hateful. I'm not saying intentionally be an asshole. I'm saying be honest. Being a good friend is being honest. So sometimes it's just recalibrating what we think being a friend is. Like I said, my first priority isn't that you like me. It'd be nice, but it's like maybe top 3 or 4. So when we see those things as separate, that's where the problem is. I'm pretty blunt with people, and the closer you get to me, the more blunt I am. Now I try to deliver it in a way that's gonna be palatable, and most of my closest friends appreciate that about me, because I'm not gonna fucking blow smoke up their ass. So you can set that tone early in the relationship by setting a tone for how you show up, your expectation. But I don't really have to have those conversations, it's just who I am. And there isn't personal me and business me. It's all just me, baby. You may not be where you want to be. So then the question is, are you further along than you used to be? Right, so for me, it's like the grand reset. One of my buddies built a $1 million business, multi-million-dollar business. And then like over a period of 2 years during and through COVID, it melted down and he lost everything. And he was negged the fuck out. I guess it makes sense. It's like 10 years worth of effort resulted in nothing. And I said, well, what if you started today? How much further ahead would you have been than had you started 10 years ago? And he goes, oh, it's night and day difference. Then you're fine. This is far more important than this. This can create all of this you want. This is why I say constantly, and TikTok isn't always a fan. Don't work for a paycheck, work for an education. Oh, that's privilege. No, it's not. Go somewhere where you're growing and learning. I work really hard to create no ceilings in our business by design, because I would not want to work anywhere that had a ceiling. I don't even want to work with clients that have a ceiling. I literally keep all my clients on notice, all my partners on notice. If I ever get to a point in which my goals are limited because of my partners or my clients, I will not hesitate in removing those partners and clients to get to my goals. My goals come first. So I work really hard to make sure there is no ceiling for anyone. That doesn't mean that you don't have to work, you fucking have to work. Some people are like, oh, I feel stuck. I'm like, well, yeah, because you gotta work. Oh, I missed that part. Yeah, weird, it just doesn't get handed to you. If you stop growing, more often than not, so does your income. Your goal is to continue to grow and to develop high-value skill sets. Do not get stuck, do not get stale, do not allow yourself to plateau for the wrong reasons. That means you get obsessed with your personal growth. You know how many people the last book and only book they read was in high school? Same people blaming other people for why they're not succeeding. You know, we spend more money on lottery tickets than books in the United States. What does that tell you? What's our plan? Maybe at its core, it isn't insidious, potentially. But we have this pervasive concept, especially among the youngest generation, and there may be a healthy psychological explanation for some of this. Perhaps, I'm willing to sustain that might be possible. But we have this obsession with wanting to argue for the exception. We have an obsession with wanting to discount lowercase truth, general rule, because of an exception. For instance, 1 million people all had this experience, but Billy Bob didn't, so Billy Bob goes, that's not true because I didn't. And you're like, motherfucker, you're 1 in 1 million. And we do this everywhere. If I've lost you and you're like, what are you talking about? I'll explain what I said the other day. If you jumped out of a perfectly good airplane without a parachute, there is a statistical chance you hit the ground and live. That would be the exception, not the rule. Are you playing that exception? Then why the fuck are we constantly arguing for the exception? It's everywhere. That's the biggest, we've stopped learning how to argue. We've stopped learning how to have deep conversation, how to think critically, and instead we come up with counterintuitive experiential feedback that tells us because my experience is different, it must be different. Which means head severely up, ass, we lack awareness. Once you learn that, by the way, then you can calculatedly play the exception from a conscious place, not argue for it as if your exception is the rule. That's where this gets insidious, is now we start to pretend the exception is the rule. I don't think you have to look very far in our society to see how we're pretending that a very small population of people are the largest population of people, and that we should change our entire society for a very small fraction of society. Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. History isn't rife with examples of how we have fucked that up over and over and over again. Once you're conscious of it though, then you can calculatedly play the exception. See the difference? But if we put 2 people together and we said, listen, you constantly play the exception, you constantly play the rule. Who do you think is going to be more successful at the end of the day? The guy who's playing the rules, because he's playing most likely outcomes. Make sense? Now this can be confusing because the other side of this coin is I like fighting for the impossible, which could be the exception. I like contending for what could be, which may be the exception until it's not. But when we discount truth because we can think of an exception, it's like saying, hey, well, you could live jumping out of an airplane without a parachute. You're fucking right, you could. You want to be the first one to go? No? Well, then shut the fuck up, please. So when I started, it was a business of one. There was only me, but I wasn't trying lots of different things. I knew in order for it to be a success, I had to go all in on it. And it was as if the universe, God, source, whatever, was trying to test this, and I got a call. And this dude was actively trying to recruit me into his business. And he's like, listen, I'll pay you $180,000 a year in salary and projected another like $70,000 or $80,000 in commission. Now, truth be told, a good portion of people would have been like, sign me up for that. I kindly said no. Some people would be like, what? You'd give up $180,000 in salary to run your own business every day of the week. So sometimes we get these opportunities. You'll see it. Like if you get really good at sales, no doubt salespeople will walk into you in the store and be like, come work with me, you'll make twice as much money. First, you'll be like, oh, you're a salesperson. Thank you for letting me know. Thanks for the warning. 2, more often than not, that never happens. It's much easier to recruit people that are great at sales than to try to go find people that are great at sales. So take it as a compliment, but in most cases, I would suggest not paying attention to it. especially if it's in the financial industry, as it's most likely some kind of network marketing or MLM that you just don't know. It's different. So, to each his own. But I think it's hard to do multiple things at one time. And this is another misnomer. It's something you hear a lot and you see a lot in social media. People say millionaires have 7 streams of income. The best lies are 60% truth. The closer something is to true, the easier it is to believe, which is why critical thinking is insanely important. And we're just not teaching it. I'm about to do a whole series I'm going to put on YouTube that's just about critical thinking because it is so missing in our society. Okay, so is it true that millionaires have multiple streams of income? Yes or no? It is. It is true. What is missed is the context of that, which is in most cases, they made all of their money, their come up, their escape velocity came through a single stream or a single industry or a single effort. Then once they got there, they diversified. Very few people did lots of things and made them all work. They would be the, not the, yes. Make sense? Don't play the exception, play the fucking rule. And when you start looking at extreme wealth, statistically, most of the people that got to extreme wealth kept doing the same thing for a long enough period of time. In some cases, absolutely shit industries. Success leaves clues, but it's not generally where we're looking. You're not going to see $1 million opportunity if you do not have $1 million mind, which means what is the one thing that we can solve for the most other things? The number one asset you need to invest in is upgrade your mind. A mind expanded rarely ever is able to shrink again, which is my entire goal, to simply seed enough truth that it sticks. And over time, it will begin to bear fruit. And it's very hard to deny truth once it gets on the inside of you, desperately, even if you want to. It starts to wear away on the inside.